night. Last night I went and I saw Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Nah, this is fine. I'll just upload it on YouTube. I'm trying to debate on how I want to do this. I'm trying to debate if I want to multi-stream this or not. But I think if I upload it on a video, I think if it's uploaded as a video, it'll do better. Okay. All right, so like last night I went to go see Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, and this is like, here's the thing about this. I was never really a big Planet of the Apes fan. I was never, when I saw the trailer for this, I was kind of like, meh. Like, I don't really care what's going on or why this is happening. Or, I know Planet of the Apes has been huge in popular culture and things of that nature. And it's been something that like has influenced a lot of media. You know, I remember growing up seeing it in everything, seeing it in The Simpsons, seeing it in other TV shows, seeing parodies of it. I remember going and watching the Matt Damon version of it, and oh, thank you, Amy. Yeah. And I was intrigued. I was like, oh, I like the concept of it, but that was my only real kind of thing for it. So whenever they rebooted the series, I knew I should like watch it. I knew I wanted to watch it. I watched it with my dad. And I think like every time I've seen Planet of the Apes with my dad, he's been, I don't know, I guess disappointed or wasn't impressed. And like I never really understood why. And I think this is also a while ago back when I would like not really take movies as seriously as I did before, or as I do now, sorry. So like I never really paid attention to the social commentary or any of those things about movies. And so like when watching this Planet of the Apes, I was just gonna skip it. I don't even think I was gonna do a review for it. I don't know if I'm gonna do like a digital review for it. I think I am liking these segments where like I go on stream and I just kind of talk about movies and stuff like that, especially like games, moments that I have to catch up on. Good morning, Yami. But so I watched a YouTube video, kind of like the history of the movies, and I didn't realize like Planet of the Apes was crazy popular, and then Star Wars came out, right? Because sci-fi used to be all about social commentary. Sci-fi is never about the future, right? And a lot of people will say like sci-fi is about how society integrates with like technology. Really, sci-fi is about the present, right? And it's the author's view on the present, and kind of like, or maybe it's the author's view on the past, or maybe science fiction. And I think that's why I like science fiction so much, is because science fiction at its roots, at its core, is a social commentary. It's a reflection of society. And I that kind of philosophical thinking really intrigues me, and I like thinking. I like kind of just like, that's why when I watch movies and stuff like that, I like to try to infer what the director or writer is trying to get across, which is probably why I really got into reading sci-fi and things of that nature. So when I learned about the film history and I learned about the social commentary behind the history of the film, I learned how popular the films were. I was very much intrigued. I still haven't really seen the originals. I remember them like, I remember bits and pieces of them. Like I remember like watching parts of them, but I mainly only saw, I remember seeing the Matt Damon one in theaters. My dad took me to go see that one, which is like, I owe my dad a lot of credit because he went to take me to a lot of just movies. He really did. He took, like, my dad knew what was up. And I don't know how he knew what was up, but I'm very grateful that he did know what was up, because I just kind of like know what to lean in towards because of him. So essentially my mind has been changed about Planet of the Apes. And I've seen all the other ones up until now. I have a friend, Miguel. I don't know, for those of you hardcore who have been with me since my other channel, you probably remember Miguel in some of my old videos. Let me see if I can pull up a video of me and Miguel together. Holy shish kebab. This is what the YouTube algorithm wants me to look at, by the way. The YouTube knows me pretty freaking well, guys. YouTube, yep, let's get out of that before Twitch bans me. Okay, so it was Miguel, right? Out of box Spider-Man. Let's do that. Oh, it's out of box. There. Okay, look. So this is my old channel. So okay, this is me, like 5, 6, 7 years ago. But me and Miguel, we would discuss movies and stuff like that. So I've been doing this for a long freaking time. And but Miguel's really into Planet of the Apes. And I think he really likes the character progression and growth and stuff like that. And so this is also the microphone I started streaming with. But so like I didn't rewatch the reboot series, but I did think back on them. And I only had a couple of days to think back on them, and I kind of like watched a Screen Rant video and like reviewing them, and I realized, okay, I can get into these movies. So I went into Kingdom of Planet of the Apes with a new perspective. And you know what? I probably will do a digital review over this. I need to figure out what to call these videos where I'm like streaming about my reviews. I'll think about it. Well, because they're not quick, because I try to make my reviews as quick as possible. I try to make my reviews like anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes long. Like that is the goal of the reviews, is to just make them really quick and digestible. But whenever I do like streams, like these kind of like podcast kind of things where I'm just chatting to you guys, I really could just sit here and talk about like a movie for 30 minutes long. I could talk about video games all day long. And so I want to lean into that more. But I've gone way off topic. Kingdom of Planet of the Apes is good. Let's just start off with that. It's good. If you want to watch a movie that is science fiction and has a lot of depth, I don't want to say a lot of depth to it, but has depth to it, this is a movie to watch. The thing, my one critique about Kingdom of Planet of the Apes would be that it is very Hollywood still. So it's catering. So like Dune, for example, right? You know, like how I complained about how like in Dune, they had a lot of just like Hollywood actors in the movie that would kind of overshadow the character. Like I'm not sad that I forgot what his name was. The guy who played Jason Momoa, or the guy who played Jason Momoa. Jason Momoa's character in Dune. Who did Jason Momoa play as in Dune? Duncan, Idaho. Duncan, Idaho was Jason Momoa. I'm not sad that Duncan, Idaho is dying. I was more sad that Jason Momoa won't be in the movies anymore. Which, if you've read the Dune books, that's, I guess, not technically true, because, spoilers, Duncan, Idaho gets, like, resurrected, like, 50 million times in the Dune books. Speaking of which, look, I got my little Aquaman cup. And this movie kind of does like a similar thing. And maybe, so what I try to do when I watch movies is I try not to push my expectations on them. So I try not to think like, oh, this is how I would have done the movie. I think that's like a bad habit to get into. What I try to do when I watch movies and when I play video games is I try to like see what the story is trying to tell me, and if the merits of what it's trying to tell me pass. So what that means is, like, if a story is trying to tell me this is a bad guy, like, let's just put it in layman's simple terms. If a story is trying to tell me this person is a bad person, right? Does the story portray this person as a villain? And like, we look, you know, you want to look here and you want to see that, like, we have this guy. He looks like the main character. He looks like the just from watching a trailer alone, he's the first one that pops up. He's the one that, you know, he's talking to his family, and then you see this guy. What this tells me is that he's a person of power, right? The movie's telling me that, like, there's red everywhere. He's wearing a crown. He's got more clothing on than most other of the characters. He's telling me this is, you know, the movie's telling me that he's a person of power. And so, like, it's a combination of the editing, it's a combination of the visuals that are on screen, it's a combination of the actor, and then it's a combination of how all of that is getting directed. And because of that, that's how you get, you know, these situations. And if all of that is coming together and it is telling me that the person in front of me is a bad guy, then I can agree with the movie, and I'd be like, okay, you get points for conveying your message well. So how does that look like on a deeper scale? Well, and the reason I'm talking about this is because, like, this is a big reason why I like sci-fi films. So in Planet of the Apes, and it being a social commentary, what I really liked about this one is this one kind of takes a different point in the timeline. Like, we are no longer in the time of Caesar. We're now following Noah, and, you know, this is kind of like Caesar had, in the last movie, had saved his people from subjugation and had brought them essentially to the promised land, right? And my theology or my religious knowledge isn't that great. It's very minuscule. So there's probably things I'm gonna miss that other people who are more knowledgeable in that area might correct me on, so forgive me. This is another reason why I didn't want to do a digital review, is because I see the message that the movie's trying to send, but I don't have the knowledge to catch all of the parts. And what I would talk, like, if I would do a digital review, what I would talk about is I would talk about, like, modern day. I would focus on the modern day social commentary, right? Compare that to, like, social commentary in the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. I'd do some research over it. But I think that this one, the main character's name is Noah, and that's very important for the story. I also think it's also important that you see, like, the color blue a lot. So, like, there's a lot of, like, the color blue is very important. So let's look up what the color blue means. The color blue meaning. But before I look this up, I'm gonna look at the camera because you guys don't see that I'm looking at my third monitor over here. To me, the color blue is a sign of, like, wisdom and is a sign of knowledge. So the color blue, in my interpretation, is like birth, knowledge, and wisdom. So if we look up the color blue meaning, the color blue represents both the sky and the sea associated with open spaces, freedom, intuition, imagination, inspiration, and sensitivity. I was way off, but that tells me a lot. And there's a reason, like, the people who make these movies, they take a lot of time in making sure that this kind of stuff is rare. But there's also this. Blue also represents the meaning of depth, trust, loyalty, and sincerity, wisdom, confidence, stability, faith, and intelligence. Okay, so I wasn't that off. So I was there, but I didn't catch the full meaning. So blue has a lot of interpretations. The reason why I'm talking about the color blue is because this right here, depth, trust, loyalty, wisdom, confidence, faith, intelligence, this second part that Google is giving us the definition of the color blue is a huge theme, if not the main theme, in Kingdom of Planet of the Apes. So right here you have, and the reason for that is you have the mother, right? And this is what I might talk about in my digital review. The mother's wearing blue, right? And she looks older. This is a sign of wisdom. She's a sign of trust. He loves his mother. And the thing about this movie is it's really good at the use of like Chekhov's gun. So what I mean by Chekhov's gun is that they will show you something before they use it. They will also kind of sort of explain the meaning of something before they use it. And what I mean by explain the meaning of something, they won't necessarily do exposition, but they will at times just show you. So there's a lot of showing and not telling, which I love that. I love it. I've recently grown to like exposition, and there is an appreciation for exposition, but I think the problem with exposition is that it can be abused too easily. Exposition is like Superman's kryptonite, you know? If the only way you can beat Superman is through kryptonite, then you're just kind of being a lazy writer, in my opinion. Because kryptonite's supposed to be like a rare resource and yada yada. We're not going to nerd out about that. But the color blue. So the color blue is very important. And then, like I was saying before, the color red is very important. So there's a common theme about like the apes being subjugated. The apes being there's a lot of prejudice in Planet of the Apes, just in the series as a whole. And in the first movie, it was if like roles were reversed, if the apes had taken over the planet and humans were being subjugated. And so now we're kind of in a position, especially after like the death of Caesar, where apes kill apes now. And now we're finally seeing apes are subjugating other apes. So it's in a position where like apes are forcing apes to be together, and it's so clever how they do this. And this is where the color red comes in. So these are the people that are in power. You know, they are following Caesar's word, and there's two ways that Caesar's word is being portrayed throughout these films. The first one is told to us by, let's see if I can find him here, by I think his name was Rocca. And Rocca had a very humble approach about Caesar. Rocca's approach to Caesar was like kind of more aligns, very, very much similar to like Jesus. You know, the word of Caesar is kind of like the word of God, and everyone treated Caesar's word like the word of God. But there were more of the crusaders compared to more of the humbles. And so Rocca himself, I can't find Rocca. He doesn't exist in the trailer anymore. Rocca himself is kind of that humble servant of God. And he says that, and he treats Caesar more like Jesus, where Jesus lived the perfect life. And for him, it was about compassion and love and empathy, and that unity brings strength. And it's not unity with one's culture or race. It's unity through, gosh, I can't get that frame on him. It's unity through love. And everyone and anyone can be loved. And I love, pun not intended, I love that, like, this carries over through the films. I love that, like, we see Caesar wasn't the perfect person or the perfect ape, but he did his best to be a good ape. And when we get to this movie, his legacy is that he was the embodiment of what other apes want to be like. It's just how they want to interpret his words. And I think I love that. I thought that was very clever. I thought that plays into the series way more. It makes watching the entire series go together into a much grander scale. And what I really, really took away from Rocca is that, like, at first he didn't trust you know, Noah. At first he's like, whoa, are you one of them? But the second Noah is like, I'm not with them, I'm not one of them, Raka extends a hand and wants to help him. And that's with that love and that compassion. And Raka, what's important about Raka and Proximus is the other ape, the one that's wearing the crown and stuff like that. What's important about Raka and Proximus, the difference between these two, is Proximus, they're both doing the same thing, but with different intentions. And what's also really important is that Noah meets Raka first. But the same goes for Noah and May. Noah and May are also Raka and Proximus, but they're just main characters. So we have May, who has the same intentions as Noah, right? Just like how Proximus has the same intentions as Raka. And I think like the simile and the parallels between all four of those characters is needed, because Raka is kind of like showing who Noah is going to be, is kind of like a glimpse into Noah's future, and then Proximus is a glimpse into May's future. And the reason I bring this up is due to the fact that like May wants to restore mankind. May wants things to go back to the way they were, or she's probably never experienced those times and just wishes and wants to live a better life than what she's living right now. And Proximus kind of has the same thing. He kind of dreams of being what the humans were. So they both have the same dreams, but they're going about it with different intentions. And this to me is just beautiful. I love that, because they're enemies. They see each other as enemies, but they essentially are the same person. With Proximus, he takes Caesar's words and he misinterprets them. He says apes together strong, right? Whereas like Raka says apes together strong, but he wants apes and humans to stand together, and because apes and humans can stand together, they are strong. Raka quite literally just puts apes together and says like, you know, it kind of creates like an army, a kingdom. You know, you got Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. He creates a kingdom, and he says, "Is Proximus?"
You said Raka.
Oh, I said Raka. My bad. Proximus creates a kingdom, and his interpretation of what Caesar says is that, look at this kingdom we've created. Look at this. Look at all the clans I forced to come here, and because I forced them all to come here, you know, they're now for me. But this looks like an internment camp. You know, they are lesser than him. And I like, this is what I love about this movie is the bad guy thinks that he's good. The good guys think that they're good, right? May thinks that she's a good person. She thinks she's doing the right thing, but they're doing the right thing for themselves. And that's what's important about this movie is like, I think someone can easily look at this movie and say, oh, there's no good or bad guys. Well, in reality, this movie is kind of like what it looks like to be selfish and what it looks like to be selfless. The difference between compassion and selfishness. And I'm going to bring back the colors here. So when, I don't think it'll show it, but right here. So like, this is the mother's blanket from before, right? And like, it's blue. And there's a moment that the movie focuses on where Noah kind of has to like give up the blanket. And we go back to the definition or like the meaning of the color blue. And it, you know, it talks about depth and trust, loyalty, sincerity, wisdom, confidence. And that's the first part, is like Noah has to learn how to trust someone. And then there's stability, faith, and intelligence. And so like when I talked about the religious themes of the movie, it's you have Noah. His name is specifically Noah, and I had to be told this. Amy informed me that like Noah in the Bible was kind of a tinkerer. He liked to fix things. He liked to work on things. He would build things. I mean, he built the ark. That's kind of like what he's most known for. And that's the same. They do the same thing in the movie. And like, I might be stretching it when I say this, but Noah spends a huge portion of the movie building relationships. We see an established relationship that he has in the beginning. But then in the second act, he has to build relationships. And through building those relationships, we also see him do things like he likes to tinker and he likes to think, and he is a little more clever. I do like that with Noah is that he builds trust and he brings back his community, and there's more symbolisms across the film that interworked with Noah and interworked with kind of like the Egyptian pharaohs and things like that. But I do like how they have like the kingdom of Caesar, and it's kind of like the Roman Empire, but it's also a simile of the Egyptians, and like Noah is kind of also a parallel of Moses, where he has to come in and save his people. And the third act plays out in a way where there's water, there's the rebirth, but there's like the cleansing of original sin. And to me, that's important because like in the Bible, man is born with sin, right? And like the apes aren't men, so they're not really born with sin. But the apes, as the movies progress, and especially in this movie, they want to have what men have. And a lot of that is like technology and guns and intellect, right? And the more closer apes get to being man, being human, the more sin they develop. And you have, I think, like this parallel is also shown in just the way that they dress. You see that Noah is dressed very humbly. He's dressed in a way that's like, I don't want to say rags to riches, but he's dressed in essentially rags. But you see these guys, the apes that are looking to be more human, they're dressed in armor. They're not dressed humbly. They're dressed to show off their power. And it's because they are becoming closer to man.
Can I interrupt?
Oh, Amy wants to interrupt. You have to get closer to the mic.
No, I don't want to talk about it.
Okay, what are you saying? What do you want to say?
I just want to kind of correct your...
Oh, she's correcting me. See, I told you I didn't know anything. My theology is really bad. What is it?
Humans weren't born with sin. They weren't created with sin. And that's kind of an Augustinian misconception. Like, humans were made sinless, and we brought it upon ourselves by trying to make ourselves into God in our own way. And I feel like that's what the apes started to do. Like, they were this like sinless people, but then like lost their way. What I was saying last night, like we are like to become more human is actually to become more sinless. But the movie kind of takes like the two sides of it. Like, what does it mean to become more human? Does it mean to become more sinful or more sinless?
I hope everyone caught that, because that was a really good... That is actually... No, I think, yes, that I did need that correction, and that was a really good point that you brought up, because and that's where, like, Noah and May come in. And that's also where, like, Raka and Proximus come in, is... Now, you were saying the interpretation I was taking was from a different culture and a different group of people, which whichever interpretation you wish to lean in with, if we were to lean in with Amy's interpretation of like man is born without sin and that they lean into sin, that would make sense, because you have Raka and Noah who are becoming more human, but they are leaning away from sin. They are trying to, you know, they're trying to live a righteous life. But then you have May and Proximus who lean into sin, right? But they're doing it, but they think they're doing it for the good reasons. So I think I hope that was caught on audio. I was looking at the audio input and I turned up the gain, so there was probably a bunch of other stuff that was being said whenever there was probably a bunch of other things being heard when you were saying that. But no, thank you for interrupting. Thank you for correcting me on that. Yeah, and I kind of just came in here without doing any research and just started like talking off rip with you guys. So please, if anyone has something to say in the comments section or want to add to it, by all means. The more I talk about this, the more I do kind of want to make a digital review over this. So that might be the case. But Planet of the Apes is really good. So like, I think at the end of the movie, you know, we have May. She is wearing all blue. It was caught. Thank you, Ezio. May is wearing all blue, and it's very significant again but it's also interesting because she's gained the knowledge that she needed to gain for humanity, and she has like even though she's wearing blue and it's a symbolism of trust and wisdom, she is misleading herself. Now I don't want to spoil everything, but if you watch the movie, you're trying to catch on. So I like the religious. I myself am not religious. I do think religion is intriguing. I like the idea of religion. I do think people need something, you know, something to believe in for like morals and stuff like that, on my personal view. But whenever they put it in movies and they, you know, they put religion against itself, or they put religion against society, and this one doesn't ever talk about religion. I want to point that out. It never directly says anything about religion. You just kind of have to interpret it, kind of like how me and Amy were. Like, it's those things of like, you're never quite sure what the director's saying because it's art, right? You're never quite sure what the message is getting across. But whenever you have someone, the main character's name is Noah, who likes to build things. And then you also have someone in the Bible's name is Noah, who also likes to build things. You're kind of like, okay, I see the message you're trying to put on me. When you have the color blue, and you take the color blue and you have it represent trust with one character, you have it represent wisdom with another character, but then you take the color blue and you give it to the person who's been kind of like not so much an antagonist, but kind of like a polar opposite, because May is an opposite of Noah. But then you take those same symbolisms with the color blue and you inverse them. You can see that the movie's sending a message. So that's why I love this kind of stuff. That's why I really enjoy Planet of the Apes, is because it takes knowledge of society and it really makes you think. And you know, you can look at this movie, reflect on yourself, reflect on society, reflect on what they're saying, reflect on the word of Caesar, and create a wonderful conversation with someone. And because of that, Planet of the Apes gave me a wonderful day. You see what I did there? I'll post this on YouTube for you guys to watch. And I'll just like cut out the segment and stuff like that, and we'll see if you guys like this kind of stuff. Maybe I'll try to be more thoughtful about how I speak. What I wanted to do was I wanted to take notes, and I wanted to like kind of like work on the digital review, but I got caught up in rambling and stuff like that. So hopefully they'll get better. I enjoy doing this. I enjoy just doing like just chatting and talking to you guys about like movies and video games. I like doing the other one, so we'll see how it goes. For YouTube, until next time. Play nice.